Hi everybody, welcome to Sustainable House Day. Thanks for coming along. This session is on designing climate resilient homes, and the MC for this session will be Rob McLeod from Renew. Sustainable House Day, we've been going since the turn of the century, and never quite like this. It's normally an in-person physical house visiting event rather than Zoom, but this is a special one for this year, as we all know. So Sustainable House Day is run by Renew. We're a member-based not-for-profit organisation. We've got branches around Australia, and we provide independent expert advice on sustainability and renewable energy. We publish 2 magazines, Renew and Sanctuary, and we run regular events such as Speed Data Sustainable Expert, among other activities. So I'd like to pass over to Rob. Just one more point. If you've got questions, please put them in the Q&A down at the bottom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Hi everyone, my name is Rob. I work at Renew. I'll be facilitating this session on designing climate resilient homes. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking from the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Sustainable House Day is taking place on the lands of many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their elders past, present and emerging. In my role at Renew, I advocate to governments for changes to our building standards that would bring Australian homes up to scratch in the face of the climate emergency. This includes a push to make sure that no home in Australia is built at less than a 7-star efficiency level. The biggest challenge we face when we're doing that kind of work so often is people telling us that it's too hard, that it can't be done, that building that type of homes that we need in the face of climate change just isn't possible at scale. And that is why I'm so excited about this session that we're going to be hosting today. Today we're hearing from people who've done it, from people who've shown us what is possible, and people have shown us the great benefits that that homeowners and residents can have from building homes that are planned with a view to climate change and the climate future that we face. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce all of our panelists, and I'll be asking them to give an introduction to their homes alongside a video which will be showing you of those things. Just a couple of housekeeping notes, as Andrew touched on. You can find a description of all of these houses, including a video tour and specifications, at the Sustainable House Day website. We welcome questions to panelists. In fact, that's very much the purpose of today. So please do use the Q&A function to send through any questions. That will be the focus of today's session. You can also use the chat function for more general comments. Closed captioning is available. Finally, Sustainable House Day is a fully free event. To make it possible for us to continue this kind of work and hold events like this into the future, people who are in a position to do so, we do encourage you to consider making a donation, and you can find out more at the Renew website or in the comments later on. We will be wrapping up this session in about half an hour at 2:40. So our panel for today, we are featuring 5 houses in this session, and I would like to ask, first of all, Natalie and David from the White House to talk us through their home.
Hi there, can you hear us? Okay, yep. So Natalie and David here, we're in the suburbs of Canberra, and in 2019 we did a knockdown rebuild of a very tatty old house to a sparkling brand new house. The new house is a 4-bedroom house, and it achieved a EER of 8.4. And most recently, our exciting news is that we just won the HIA Most Energy Efficient House in Australia, I believe.
Yeah.
We have no gas here. We run on solar only with a battery. And in our first year, our entire energy spend was a credit of $550. And the main principles of the house are the aspect of the house. The picture you're seeing on the right of our living area, that's about the solstice, and we get the full sun coming straight into that living area, and that's our main source of heating. This year hasn't been a very harsh winter in Canberra, but we used our heating for entirely half an hour, which was on a day after a run of a week of some rain and gloomy skies. And we just needed to top up the heating when we had people coming over. Otherwise, it's all solar heated, just from the sun on the concrete floor. Excellent insulation, excellent aspect, and then that thermal mass through the concrete floor. Double glazing all around the house as well makes a huge difference. Anything else? So that's basically our house. Very much enjoy living here, and happy to join the panel today.
Fabulous, thank you so much. Half an hour of heating and $550 in energy bills. That is amazing, thank you. Next, I would like to ask Tabitha Barclay to talk us through the Chelangi off-grid forest home. And Tabitha, we can't see or hear you at the moment. I need to unmute.
Okay. Start video. Start video.
We can hear you. Maybe. Ah, yeah, there we go.
Hi, we're Chris and Tabitha from Chelangi, Victoria, and our house is fondly known as the Chelangi Off-Grid Forest House. Chelangi is a small hamlet at the foothills of the Great Dividing Range, and we experience great extremes of temperature here, from 45 degrees in summer to -5 in winter. And added to this, we've got the threat of bushfire every summer pretty much. So when we decided to build a house on our 120-acre bush block, these climatic and environmental factors were pretty much foremost in our design. And this was prior to getting our bushfire assessment, which was dictated by our BEL, which was at a rating of 40, which is the second highest. Our home was certainly a challenge to build, followed by Grand Designs Australia, and it performs extremely well with regards to energy efficiency, and recently received a 10-star scorecard rating. It's an extremely comfortable 2-storey, 4-bedroom house, modern interpretation of a 14th century saltbox farmhouse style, and features that contribute to the efficiency are heat recovery ventilation, smart house technology, solar off-grid battery bank, solar hot water, drenching system for fire safety, variable speed drive pumps, boiler, open plan lower floor design for multi-purpose living into the future. But by far the best thing we did when we designed the house was to know our location and our site. We'd lived locally for many years and experienced firsthand the wind, sun, rain, snow and fire directions, intensity and seasonality. We're really lucky here to live among some of the most carbon dense old growth forest in the world, and we've protected this into perpetuity by putting a covenant on our title to conserve the higher environmental values of the land and designed to reduce our footprint on the site to less than 3% of the total area of land. So this will ensure hopefully we can coexist with the threatened and endangered species of fauna that live here with us, like greater gliders and sooty owls. We hope in the future to improve our self-sufficiency, and in these current strange times of 2020, we can thoroughly recommend this lifestyle to anyone that's willing to be a little bit out of the box. We'd love to be part of the panel today and hope that we can contribute. Thanks.
Thank you. Fantastic, thank you so much. That is wonderful to hear about. The next home, which I'll ask to be introduced, is the Elemental House. Sue Preston will talk us through the Elemental House.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. We've built this house on a very exposed ridgeline in High Camp in central Victoria. I'm here with Jim, my partner, and also online in a different place is Ben Callery, our architect. We could have chosen an easier site to build, but I guess we wanted to take advantage of the 360-degree views. And of course, it's very, very windy there. and that comes with great problems. Our project architect pitched a tent at the top of the hill before the design even started, and his tent blew away. One of the first things the builder did was construct a builder's toilet, and that rolled down the hill. So they had a very good idea of what they were, dealing with. Other factors that came into play with the design of the house was how you can see from the photos how very exposed it is. There's not a stick of grass or trees anywhere. And with our Bell 29 rating, we're not able to plant trees close to the house. So we actually left the design completely to our architect because we had complete confidence in him. And everything he did in the design of the house has mitigated all those problems. We've got the timber, the spotted gun timber around the house is fire retardant timber. We've got wide eaves to shade the house. We've got decks either side that we can travel to and from to get out of the wind. So there's lots of things that have been done that we're very, very happy with, and it's a lovely, comfortable place to live. So looking forward to being part of the discussion today.
Fantastic, thank you so much. As we introduce homes, I'd just like to remind everyone that you can ask questions directly of the homeowners and designers. So please do use that Q&A function, and we'll be diving into that straight after this. The next home, Ben Callery actually was the architect of that home. And I'm not sure if Ben will also be speaking to that in any way.
I'm happy to. I'm not sure there's much I can really add. Sue really covered it all very well. I think, yeah, just like she said, I'd reiterate that it's got a very harsh local environment there, hot and sunny. There's no shelter, but then really cold in winter. There's the bushfire threat. Bell 29 is the rating there, and the big steep hill to the east, has the threat of bushfires rushing up the grasses. And then it's really windy, rated M3, which is the equivalent of low level cyclonic with gusts of up to 40 meters per second. So really strong buffeting winds. So the design really takes into account all those things. And I suppose that's where it speaks to this topic of the climate resilience. So yeah, to that end, it's got the passive solar to help bring in the winter heat with lots of windows to the east and north. Then the really deep eaves to help protect it from the summer sun. But then those eaves are really chunky to withstand those strong winds. And those windows, they're all brought up off the floor by that 400 or 500 mil for a couple of reasons. One, that meets the bushfire requirements so that you don't get embers sitting around the base of the perimeter of the building able to get the window sills. And also the windows are literally the exact size, maximum size allowable to withstand those winds, particularly from the east. And yeah, like Sue touched on, we intentionally designed 2 open spaces, one either side of the building, because the winds very reliably come from either the north or the south. So if you're on one side or the other, you can reliably be in shelter from the other side. Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final home that we'd like to introduce is the Kinship King Lake Earthship. And I'd like to ask Daryl Taylor to talk us through the home. Daryl, are you there? You're on mute currently.
Hi, sorry about that. So yeah, Kinship is more of an adaptive self-organizing system than a strategic micromanaged design. It's a built response to the Pyrocene, so to moving out of an ice age into a new geological era, the Fire Age. So after spending 4 years as a member of the Kinglake Ranges Community Recovery and Resilience Committee, Kinship is my attempt to establish a positive legacy from the wreckage of Black Saturday. My father, Ian, is a modular and solar passive architectural draftsman. So we concocted a rough plan, loose enough to allow us to take advantage of all sorts of found and recycled materials and to incorporate innovations on the fly. My mantra throughout the building process has been waste streams equals supply chains. People have come from all continents to be part of the crew, often bringing with them rich vernacular building traditions. As a result, we've been able to incorporate 38 major one-off resilient and regenerative emergent innovations over the course of the build. The building is constructed from second-hand and redundant object upcycled materials and is solar passive and uses no fuel or energy for space heating or cooling. We think it performs at about a 20+ star rating as a consequence. When complete, it'll be off-grid for electricity, solar, wind and geothermal, process all its grey and black water, collect and store rainwater, grow food inside and out, and be fire and flood resistant. Despite the fire damage to the original house, so this is a retrofit of a pre-existing 2-bedroom mud brick home and then an extension of a global model Earthship. It's kind of built along biotecture or terratecture principles. So the global model Earthship inspired new dwelling, along with the retrofit of our original home.
Fantastic, thank you so much. So those are the homes which we'll be talking about in this session. And as I say, please do ask some questions. We do have some good ones coming in. I will just ask as those questions are coming in. I'd love to hear from people on the panel. How present was climate change to you in your mind when you were designing or thinking about your home? And I will find my screen, and I'd love to ask Natalie, what were your thoughts on that?
So climate change is hugely important to us. We have 3 kids and we want to leave the earth in the best shape for them. And just knowing how much warmer temperatures are going to get, particularly Canberra had a shocking summer with bushfires, etc. The ability to be able to seal the house and protect from the intense summer heat, but also not draw on any resources at all to heat in winter, were very important to us.
Yeah. And the house actually performed really well during the bushfires. Because we could seal it, you could actually come inside and escape from the smoke.
Yeah, so we just had ceiling fans to circulate the air that we had inside. We couldn't open windows to freshen, but a very definite difference between outside air and inside air.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Does that match the experiences of some of the homes in these bushfire areas that others in the panel have talked to us about, going through this last summer that we've had and previous fires? Tabitha and David, did you have, how have you found it living there?
Well, actually, last summer actually wasn't such a good summer around here as far as bushfires go, or even just heat production. But again, with climate change, it's probably going to get worse one summer to the next to the next.
Yeah, as it goes in cycles, we've found for the last, having lived through Black Saturday fires of 2009 in a weatherboard 1930s house with, gaps in the floorboards you can put your fingers through, it was completely different. So yeah, this is actually really one of those things.
And Sue, you were in this home over the last months. How was the bushfire season where you were, and how were people in your community feeling about the bushfire at the time?
Well, we weren't obviously aware of the bushfire risk, constantly, and particularly in the summer months, but we weren't so. I guess being in high camp area, it's been suffered bushfires in the recent past, so people are very conscious there of the bushfire risk. And even though we're not in a bushfire management overlay, we're certainly areas around us are. I guess as far as the climate's concerned, as Ben has said, perhaps the climate element of most concern to us was the wind, particularly the wind, and because clearly that's the risk of higher winds and more severe storms is increasing as the climate is changing, and so we were very keen to keep aware of the extent to which that was taken into account in the design, which the architects did, and indeed the builder was very careful to put extra strapping in the rafters, for example. So we were concerned about the climate resilience, particularly with respect to the stronger winds. But being in a very dry area, it dries very quickly. The grass dries very quickly. So bushfire risk, of course, is in our minds all the time, and we've got a 10,000 litre fire water tank, particularly for that, to mitigate that risk as best we can.
Daryl, you're also in the King Lake area, which of course has gone through Black Saturday bushfires in living memory, and where people in the community are very, very conscious of of the need to build back greener and better and safer. Could you talk to us a bit about how this project came about and how you thought about how climate change and bushfires were a part of your considerations in building Kinship?
I sat on the state government's bushfire prescribed burning committee for a couple of years, and that was in response to the mandated 6% of land target that was prescribed after the Royal Commission into Black Saturday. What I learnt sitting on that panel or that committee was that Kinglake was the most fire vulnerable settlement in the world, in history. So that was quite an extraordinary wake-up call, just to kind of need to be better at design again. But yeah, when Black Saturday struck, I was able to save most of our home. So if there was an opportunity to rebuild around what was left, I really wanted to decrease the energy footprint. So to get down to about 1 order of magnitude less energy use. I wanted to build underground because it was both more fire resilient or resistant, and also enables us to much more easily control internal temperatures. So, we've had days where it's been 40 degrees outside and 18 degrees inside without any cooling other than just the design of the property. So for me, climate change was a constant design factor, and the idea was to try to decrease my ongoing costs and also increase safety and livability.
Thank you. We had some questions coming in from the audience, and I'll start running through those now. First of all, Sue and Ben, where did you source your spotted gum timber from?
Yeah, I sourced it from Hereford's, which has Australian Forestry Standards Chain of Custody certification. And the spotted gum is a really important part of the whole design. We thought a lot about what external materials to use, and the spotted gum does meet the Bell 29 bushfire requirements in terms of its density and combustibility. And being so dense, it doesn't need a great deal of maintenance. It can be left to just go grey, which we thought was really appropriate in this situation.
Okay. And this is a question which is directed to Daryl, but is also very relevant to that. Were you worried about constructing the home in timber given where you live? So I guess how do you start thinking about selection of materials and what's the most appropriate material for a bushfire prone area?
Similar to Ben and Sue, we basically just looked for hardwood timbers, so the most dense that we could find. And really the timber is around the window frames to the north, and that's going to be covered by metal shutters in the event of fire. The rest of the house is a mixture of mud brick, cob and rammed earth. So yeah, predominantly the materials are not timber.
Elemental House is a beautiful design as well as addressing climate issues. How did it evolve from practical needs?
I'll let Ben answer that question.
Thanks, Sue. Well, it was very much a case of, like, you know, first principles design, looking at all the opportunities on the site, the views. Obviously, there's fantastic views towards the east, lovely sun to the north, and then these potential to catch nice, cool southerly breezes when you want them, but also you need to block them out. The other constraints as well. And that's all helped by the fact that Sue and Jim had quite modest size aspirations for the house. So it can be a nice little compact footprint that's 10 by 10. A square with a long living room that's facing all towards these great views to the east, right around to the north to get some great passive solar gain, and then to the south to get those cool breezes coming through when you do want them. And then these great big deep eaves, which are to help shade it, like a massive hat really in summer. But then obviously the form of it is very much, you know, chunky to withstand those strong winds.
A question which has come in directed to Natalie, but I think is also very relevant to others on the panel, is how airtight is your home? Is it something that you've tested? Is it something that you've considered? And what are the considerations maybe people should have around airtightness?
So Natalie stepped out just for a moment, but I can answer that one. So when we first moved into the house, the architects came back and did pressure testing on the house. So they tested it with sealing up the front door with a great big fan.
Go to the lower lock
on the door, and it was calculated at its pressure rating at 3 turns per hour for the 185 square meters that are in the house. So it's very, very airtight. The standard Canberra house apparently sits at anywhere between about 20 to 30 turns of air per hour. So it's actually so airtight that Jenny, the architect, suggested to us that if we were to have guests over, particularly during the winter, we should make sure that there is a window open somewhere in the house. Otherwise, we could actually end up with too much carbon dioxide in the house because the air wouldn't be turning enough. So when we have guests over, we do need to be mindful of it. But having guests over in winter is actually really good because the body heat also increases the heat in the house. So we use that to our advantage as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's a really
on a
wonderful
cold
rating.
night, invite some friends.
Yeah, excellent. Did other homes also, was airtightness a very big consideration in the design of the other homes? Yep, lots of silent nods.
Yeah, it definitely was for us. We had to have the airtightness obviously for the Bell rating as well, and because of it being so airtight, we installed heat recovery ventilation, which I'll let Chris tell you.
Unfortunately, about 99% of Australians have never heard about it. But
well, we have a question coming through. How does heat recapture work? So yeah, talk us through it.
Two birds with one stone there. It sucks the air out of your tiled areas or your bathrooms, toilets, kitchens, blows it out through a heat exchanger to outside. It sucks the air in from outside through the heat exchanger up into the bedroom area. So you can get up to about a 93 or 97% efficiency of air change. You're not losing any temperature having to open a window, as you were saying. You end up with a full air change through the house every 3 to 4 hours, but you're not losing any energy. So on the example, if you're sucking air out of the house at 22 degrees and sucking air in at 5, it's back up to 21 degrees just through the heat exchanger, and it's using 2 30-watt fans that just tick over. You can push a button on it which puts the fans up to 300 watts to act like an exhaust fan, so when you're having a shower and everything like that. But these systems are mandatory on all new houses in France and all through Europe, and yet Australia...
we had trouble trying to get one.
We had trouble trying to find one, but to us it was a no-brainer because as houses are becoming so well sealed up, hearing stories of people that are having massive condensation issues in their bedroom windows in the morning and things like that because of CO2 levels and whatnot. So to us, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, interesting. I'm sure lots of folks on the line would love to get more information about that. So I encourage everyone to have a look at the site. We do only have 3 or 4 minutes left, so I'll just select out a couple of questions, and there will be opportunities to answer more later on down the track as well. A question for Daryl. Did you have any issues with building regulations in designing a home with such a great level of recycling? And I guess that's for everyone as well. Were building regulations, your allies when designing climate resilient homes or bushfire resilient homes?
With only 5 minutes to go, I really can't tell that story. Yeah, look, we had an enormous amount of trouble getting approval. So it was 5.5 years to get a building permit. So, that was a battle, and I needed to engage support from state government to ensure I was able to get a building permit. But yeah, beyond the building permit, particularly using an independent building surveyor, it's been fantastic. So he's been just an absolute gift to me throughout the process. So I found him just in the nick of time. So yeah, he was super supportive. But yeah, we're really happy. We've achieved a precedent in Victoria for this kind of build, and yeah, I'm more than happy to share any of our plans or the learning with anyone who's interested in having a go at something like we did. So yeah, happy to make that available.
Fantastic. I'm very conscious of time because we are due to wrap up in a couple of minutes. And so I might just turn it back to a question for all of you, and I'll go around the group. I'd just ask you to say, what is your favorite thing about the home that you're living in now, or Ben, in your case, the home that you've designed? And secondly, what can people who are thinking about the climate and thinking about where they live, what is something that they can learn from you and your experience? So David, I'll start with you again.
Oh, the favourite thing I like about our house. There are actually many things that I really like about the house. So trying to think of one is difficult. I do like our energy bill, which is now actually sitting at $700 plus in credit. I really enjoy the concrete floor, and I like the design. I like how the bedrooms are separated out from the family area, and I like how the house is all zoned off. So we have separate zones. So we have a family zone, then we have a bedroom zone. I've got a study zone, which comes off just in front of the master bedroom. So I like the zoning approach that the architects did to it. They'd be the big things.
Fantastic. Tabitha and Dave.
I think my favourite part about it is the way the house sits on the land. Just the colour scheme and the materials that we've used are very, they're very low maintenance. There's a lot of embedded energy there, but it's not going anywhere fast. And, with 3 kids and people to pass it on to, then that's important. I think something I'd probably recommend for people is just to do as much research as you can. Research your site, research as many materials as you can. Renew and Sanctuary and all of us have got an enormous amount of information we can pass on. And then to get yourself a really good team of environmental planners and bushfire consultants, etc., to make the journey as easy as possible.
Fantastic. Sue and everyone from the Elemental Home.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I think my favourite place in the house is the east-facing window seat. When you get up in the morning and sit there, it's like being in a luxury bird hide because the views are so amazing. And a couple of things that I would suggest is for people not to be afraid of going off-grid, which I was a bit daunted by in the beginning. But apart from, some occasions where we have to be economical over winter, it's been, very easy. It's been, a bit of a set and forget kind of system for us. And just, to get the best team around you, you know, a great architect and a great team of builders. We were lucky because they were just as invested in the house as we were. Thanks.
Yeah, I reckon to that end, so you're exactly right. We had a great team from the clients, ourselves, and then our builders, James and his team from Keenan Built were fantastic. And as such, the house has a real lovely spirit to it. Like every time you go there, you remember the build and what a great team and enjoyable process it was. And how everyone got together to make this house that sits in these really harsh elements, but it kind of confronts them and embraces them and sits nice and quietly and it just has a beautiful spirit to it.
Fantastic, thank you. And finally, Daryl.
I feel a bit more like Daryl Kerrigan than Daryl Taylor, because it's the serenity that's been the most beautiful thing about the house, is that we can't hear any of the traffic that drives past on the road because there's so much bulkhead or insulation to the south. It completely obliterates all of the sound provenance because so many people have been involved through workshops. There's stories in every component of the house, so wherever I look there's a story. And then the last thing, just the quality of the craftsmanship, and just the play of light during the course of the day. So, you know, there's particular quarters in the morning that are full of sunshine, and then we get some beautiful sun in through from the west in the afternoon, and those moments in the sun are just delightful for me.
Fantastic, that is wonderful. And I think that's a really wonderful place to leave it. We are at the end of our time now. There are some great questions which we haven't gotten to, but there are still opportunities to keep asking questions, and we will have those on record. And I understand there may be an opportunity for those to be responded to in writing down the track. So please do keep sending questions in. I'd like to thank so much all of the panelists. And on that note, I will hand back to Andrew as we move to the next session.
Thank you very much, Rob, and a special thanks to all the panelists. It's been a great session. The passive solar design is the next session we've got coming up. So that's got some overlap, I guess, with the session that we've just covered. But the one that's coming up is going to be a special one. It's a live stream from. The MC for that is Griff Morris at Solar Dwellings, based over in Western Australia. So that should be pretty good. That'll be coming up after a short video. So thanks again, everyone, and see you soon.